Hey Embers, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I thought I would do something a little bit different. I have shown my video game collection off many times on this channel, and I had this random idea, so here we are. In today's video, I thought I would show you my favorite video game that I own physically from every single console that I collect for. Now, this was really hard to narrow down, so for an example, I've said many times, my favorite console is the PlayStation 2, so I have a lot of PlayStation 2 games that I love, of course, but I had to pick just one for this video. Some very difficult decisions, but ultimately I have narrowed it down to one game per console. So let's start with the Game Boy Color. Now, I don't actually own that many Game Boy Color games anymore. I sold quite a lot of them. I actually don't own my Game Boy Color anymore. I do still have the Game Boy Advance though. And I used to have a few original Game Boy games, but again, they have been sold on as well. So we're starting with the Game Boy Color today. And my favorite game on the Game Boy Color that I have a physical copy of is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I have really fond memories of playing this game. I do remember this game more on the PlayStation 1, admittedly, but I did have lots of fun playing it on my Game Boy Color. Now, realistically, if I had it in my collection, it would be Pokemon Yellow in this slot. I'm sure Pokemon Yellow was the Game Boy Color and not the original Game Boy. Correct me if I'm wrong. This would be Pokemon Yellow, but I don't own Pokemon Yellow anymore. I wish I still did. I was a silly teenager and I gave a lot of my Pokemon games to the charity shop. Yes. But it would be Pokemon Yellow if I had it, but I don't. So, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone takes the slot for my favourite Game Boy Color game. So next, let's move on to Game Boy Advance. And again, I actually don't have that many Game Boy Advance games left in my collection, but my favourite Game Boy Advance game that I own is Lady Seer. This has become quite an expensive game to buy, actually, but I've had it since I was very, very young. And I have such fond memories of Lady Seer. So as you can see, my box is quite badly battered for this. However, I do have it in a box protector. This is the back in case you were interested. And I have all of my Game Boy Advance games in box protectors. Definitely the way forward. Now, after this particular game on the Game Boy Advance, I don't think anything else was done with Lady Seer, which is a bit of a shame because I would like to see Lady Seer make a return, perhaps. I do love a strong female protagonist, and I really, really loved this game again when I was a child. I haven't played it for many years, so perhaps it's time for a replay. Now we are going to move on to Nintendo DS next, but before I do, I just want to say there are a few consoles that you won't see in this video. So for an example, I do have a few GameCube games, but they're all Harry Potter related, and I didn't feel like they were my favourites in the GameCube era. I don't own a GameCube at the moment, and like I say, I've sold most of my GameCube games off. So unfortunately, you won't be seeing any GameCube games here. Similarly, I think the Game Boy Color game I showed you is the oldest. I do have one Dreamcast game in my collection, but I don't collect Dreamcast, so again, you won't see that in this video. You won't see any Sega, any NES games, N64 games, that kind of thing. Nothing like that here. Like I say, the oldest that I collect for really is the Game Boy Color. And I don't really collect for that much either. So I would say when my collecting personally starts in terms of age for the Nintendo would be the Nintendo DS. So let's get on with my favourite Nintendo DS game that I own. And that is, of course, Animal Crossing Wild World. So this was my first Animal Crossing game, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Not only this game, but of course the franchise moving forward, even though I haven't played New Leaf yet. I know, don't hate me. So shameless plug, I recently did a video on my full Animal Crossing collection, if you would like to check that out. But yes, I absolutely adore Animal Crossing Wild World. So let's now move on to the Nintendo 3DS. And my favourite Nintendo 3DS game that I own is Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. Now, this was the first Pokemon game that I actually completed, so I've spoken about my Pokemon journey a little bit. When I was very, very young, as I say, my first Pokemon game was Pokemon Yellow on the Game Boy Color. Whether I finished it or not, I have no idea. In fact, I think I probably didn't. And unfortunately, again, as a teenager, I went on and sold it, so... well, I didn't sell it, I gave it away to a charity shop, so... Unfortunately, I don't really have that. But in terms of Pokemon moving forward, Alpha Sapphire was actually the first game that I played and completed. I have since played Pokemon Moon on the Nintendo DS. And then there's a big gap. So in terms of the Nintendo Switch, I have played Pokemon Legends ZA. That was actually my first game on the Switch. I know, don't hate me. And I am currently playing Pokemon Shield. So yes, I've definitely missed out on a lot when it comes to the Pokemon games. I do also own Pokemon Violet, so I will be getting to that at one point, and of course I would love to play Arceus. So my Pokemon knowledge when it comes to the games is very limited, but I absolutely fell in love with Alpha Sapphire. Again, the first Pokemon game that I played from start to finish, and I absolutely adored it. Of course, it helps that you can get Spinder in this game. Spinder seems to have been forgotten. He is, of course, my favourite Pokemon. I've mentioned him many times. So does that play a tiny, teeny factor? Probably. But the story of Alpha Sapphire, everything, the graphics, I just absolutely love it. And I would drop down dead if they made a remaster of this on the Switch. Although it would probably be the Switch 2, which I don't own yet. Will Sword and Shield take its spot? Only time will tell. Of course, you'll hear more about my experience playing Shield in my wrap-up. But as it stands, this is my favourite Pokemon game of all time. Let's now move on to the Nintendo Wii, and this one was a little bit more difficult for me to narrow down to just one game. The previous ones have been quite easy up to this point. And my favourite Nintendo Wii game that I currently own is The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Now, similarly to Pokemon, I have a weird experience with the Zelda games, so I didn't start from the very beginning. I'm not sure how many people did. My first Zelda game I remember being on the Game Boy Advance, I would say. I can't quite remember what my first Zelda game was, to be totally honest, but I haven't actually played that many in the franchise. I am missing some of the classics. I haven't played Majora's Mask. My first game was A Link to the Past. There you go. I do remember. I haven't played Wind Waker, I haven't played Skyward Sword, so I haven't played a lot of Zelda games, put it that way, so it's definitely a franchise I need to play more games of. But I have, of course, played Twilight Princess, and I played this again from start to finish, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Now, this is my version of Link, even though we will be talking about Link a little bit later on, but this is my favourite version of Link. And I do think I like a darker Zelda game, you know. For me, it's a close call, but I do think Twilight Princess is... Is it my favourite Zelda game I've ever played? I think so, but we're going to move on to the next one. No surprises then that my favourite game I picked for the Nintendo Switch is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, I absolutely adore this game. Again, the Switch was a little difficult because I could have easily swapped this with Animal Crossing New Horizons, but ultimately I went for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, that's why I say, is Twilight Princess my favourite Zelda game, or is this one my favourite Zelda game? They are both very, very different, and so it's really, really hard to quantify. So I will say they both are on different platforms. I'm cheating. But that's what this video is, I guess. So I can say that. I really, really loved my experience with Breath of the Wild. Now, I did own Tears of the Kingdom, for full disclosure, but I actually sold it on, and I don't know if that was a mistake. I played maybe 2 to 3 hours of it, and I really didn't like it as much as I did Breath of the Wild, and I don't know if I gave it enough of a chance. So maybe I will rebuy Tears of the Kingdom at one point. I think I do regret selling it, to be honest. So I can't really speak on Tears of the Kingdom, so I'm only speaking on Breath of the Wild, and I absolutely adored my time at playing Breath of the Wild. It's just such a beautiful game, visually stunning. The storyline, again, storylines are what really grip me, to be honest, for games. I'm not really so much bothered about graphics or anything like that, although good graphics certainly help. It is the storyline for me that grips me in, and I absolutely loved the storyline of this one. The cast of characters I thought were fantastic. I really can't sing Breath of the Wild's praises enough. Let's move on to my favourite PC game that I own, and this was a little bit more difficult because a lot of my PC games are, of course, digital. I'm not really a PC gamer, however, you guys do know this. I do prefer my consoles, but I do have a small collection of physical PC games. And the one I chose to pick for my favourite PC game of all time that I own is Mystery Case Files Ravenhurst. Now, this is a hidden objects game. All of the Mystery Case Files games are hidden objects games, and that's not really my genre, but I really do enjoy the Mystery Case Files games. I haven't played them all, but I've played a fair few. Shameless plug, I do have a playthrough for Mystery Case Files Huntsville here on this channel. Now, they're not the most engaging games for playthroughs, to be honest, which is why I haven't done another Mystery Case Files playthrough. I would love to, though. I would love to do playthroughs on Ravenhurst, Return to Ravenhurst, and the subsequent games. But hidden objects games really are to be played. I know that sounds silly, but played rather than viewed, if that makes sense. So I don't know how well a playthrough of Ravenhurst would go down, but it's something that I would love to do. But I have very fond memories. My mother and I used to play the Mystery Case Files games when I was younger, so there's definitely a lot of nostalgia at play there. So let's move on to Microsoft now, and of course the original Xbox. My favourite Xbox game of all time is Pirates: The Legend of Black Cat. Now again, this one was a little difficult because I have played quite a few games on the original Xbox. I do have a few in my collection. So this was a little difficult to narrow down, and to be totally honest, this one is a tiny bit of a cheat because I played the majority of Pirates: The Legend of Black Cat, if not all of it, on the PlayStation 2, on my PlayStation 2 copy. I don't know if I've ever actually played the game on the Xbox, but my PlayStation 2 slot was taken by something else, which you will of course see in a moment. I'm sure you know what it is. So instead, I gave my Xbox slot to Pirates: The Legend of Black Cat, even though technically I've never played it on the Xbox. But I do own it on the Xbox, and I'm sure it plays exactly the same as the PlayStation 2. Now, I adore this game, and not many people speak about it. I don't know anyone else who loves this game, and I really want to connect with someone who loves this game as much as I do. It is not talked about nearly enough. This franchise has been left to die. It's not really a franchise, it's a standalone game. I would love more of the Pirates: The Legend of Black Cat franchise, but it was made by Westwood Studios, who no longer exist, so I don't think that's going to happen. I think this game will remain a standalone game forever. But my dream would be for the PlayStation 2 version to be put on PlayStation Premium on the PS5, so I can do a playthrough for you guys. I mean, piracy is one of my special interests, I guess you would say, and I love piratey video games, which is why I know on my Assassin's Creed journey I'm going to love Black Flag, but I've not quite got there yet. So this is just me in a neat little bow. We've got pirates, we have a strong female protagonist, who is Ginger, by the way, which, random side note, but when I was a kid, again, this is a game that I played with my mum, I didn't really know of many Ginger protagonists, so I absolutely fell in love with Katerina because she's redhead like me. But if you haven't played this game, I would highly encourage you to. I love it so much. It holds such a special place in my heart. Let's now move on to the Xbox 360. It's also good timing for this one because of what's coming out this year. It is, of course, Fable 2. I do own Fable 3 on the Xbox 360, which I also love. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I do love Fable 3. But of course, Fable 2 had to take this spot because Fable 2 is the better game, 100%. But I don't believe that Fable 3 deserves the hate that it gets. I really like Fable 3 as well. Now, the Fable franchise, again, holds a very special place in my heart. Fable 2 was actually the first Fable game that I played, so I went really out of order. So I played Fable 2 first on the Xbox 360, then Fable 3 on the Xbox 360, and when I got an Xbox One, I believe that Fable Anniversary was free, quote-unquote, on Game Pass. Of course, you pay for Game Pass, so it's not free. So I went back and played Fable Anniversary last. But I really, really do like all three games. I am eagerly awaiting the next Fable that's coming out this year. I'm very, very nervous, but I really hope that the next game does the franchise justice. We've all got our fingers crossed. And now we move on to the Xbox One. Now, I don't have any Xbox Series S or X games because I don't own the latest Xbox console. I am still on the Xbox One. And I don't actually have that many physical games for the Xbox One, but out of the games that I do have, for my favourite game on the Xbox One, I picked Hogwarts Legacy. Now, this is the Amazon exclusive, as you can see by the sticker. Now, I absolutely adore Hogwarts Legacy. I think it is a beautiful game. I think it's everything that my younger self wanted, and I got it obviously a little bit later on in time. I haven't really spoken about this on the channel, so it feels quite raw. I haven't spoken about it on either of my channels. But my love for Harry Potter has diminished quite a lot for various reasons, some obvious and some not so obvious. And so it's been very difficult recently for me to talk about Harry Potter in any capacity, to the point where I'm questioning whether I'm going to keep my collections or not. Now, you know that that is a very bold statement if you know me from my other channel, or if you've known me for any great period of time, because Harry Potter was my entire life for a long time. I was known as the Harry Potter girl. And it's very difficult for me at the moment because I haven't quite formulated my thoughts on Harry Potter. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I believe Hogwarts Legacy was a brilliant game. I absolutely loved exploring Hogwarts Castle like that. Yeah, a beautiful game. I have conflicting feelings on the franchise as a whole now, but this game I would play again. I am intending on playing it again. I would like to platinum it on the PlayStation 5. Whether I will do a playthrough or not, I'm not sure. So apologies for that long tangent. I don't know where that came from, but we are finally moving on to Sony. Sony consoles are my personal favourites, and I will always be a PS2 girl. But before the PS2, of course, we have the PlayStation 1. And this was such a tough decision. This whole PlayStation section was so hard for me to narrow down a favourite game. Out of my personal collection, I have more PlayStation games than anything else in terms of PS1, PS2, so on and so forth, not just the original PlayStation. Actually, my PlayStation 1 physical collection is shocking. I need more PS1 games. So this whole section was so difficult to pick just one game. But for PlayStation 1, the OG, I have gone for Tomb Raider. I couldn't think of anything else that I wanted to put in this slot. So Tomb Raider is my favourite game I own for the PlayStation 1. What can I say about Tomb Raider? I don't think I can say anything that hasn't already been said. Again, strong female protagonist. I think Lara Croft was probably the first female protagonist I ever came across. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong, but I believe that is the case. And I absolutely fell in love with Lara Croft, I really did. Again, as a child, I used to pretend to be her a lot. Now, I have played all of the Tomb Raider games. And I did recently buy the Tomb Raider remasters on the PlayStation 5. So I would definitely love to do a replay via Tomb Raider Remastered. And maybe it would be a playthrough on this channel, who knows. But there's not a lot I can say about Tomb Raider. I just absolutely adore it. Now, I won't spend too much time on this one because if you know me, you know what's in this slot. This is my favourite PlayStation 2 game of all time and arguably my favourite video game of all time. Spoken about this many times on the channel. It holds such a special place in my heart. So again, I'm not going to go too much into it. Raise your hand if you're shocked and stunned that Draken the Ancient Gates has taken this slot for my favourite PlayStation 2 game of all time. Now, this was very difficult to narrow down as well because I do adore this game, but my favourite games of all time are all on the PlayStation 2 pretty much. I adore the PlayStation 2, so it was very hard to pick just one game, but it had to ultimately be Draken the Ancient Gates, and more people need to know about this game. I would love a third game in this franchise. It's not a franchise, I'm calling it a franchise. There was a previous game, Draken Order of the Flame, on the PC. But unfortunately, Surreal Software again doesn't exist anymore. Psygnosis, who published the first Draken game and developed it, what have you, don't exist anymore. So I think this game franchise is ultimately lost. But I would love them to do something with Draken. And again, it is my dream, like I said for Pirates the Legend of Black Cat, for this to go on premium on the PlayStation 5. Please make it happen. But I have talked about this game to death on this channel, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But you know my feelings on this game, and they will never change. So we're nearly there. Apologies if this video is quite long. It's a bit longer than I intended it to be. But we're now onto the PlayStation 3. And again, this was such a difficult decision for me. But ultimately, I've decided that my favourite PlayStation 3 game that I own is The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. I absolutely adore Oblivion. I really need to replay the Oblivion Remastered because I've only put about 2-3 hours into Oblivion Remastered. I would love to platinum that on the PlayStation 5. But the original Oblivion, I absolutely adore. I think I'm scared to play the remastered version too much because of how much I love this one. And I know that sounds silly, and I know I'm going to love remastered, but I just love the original so much, I really do. Now, of course, Skyrim is a phenomenal game in its own right. Arguably, the other Elder Scrolls games, the previous games, are as well. I know Morrowind has a lot of fans. I've not really done too much with Morrowind. I've dabbled a little bit with Morrowind. I definitely need to play that a bit more. And then, of course, Arena and Daggerfall will have their own set of fans, and then you have things like Redguard. So I think everybody knows the Elder Scrolls series by now, and Skyrim could have easily been in this slot, but ultimately for me, I prefer playing Oblivion. That's not to say I don't love Skyrim, I adore Skyrim, but ultimately for me, Oblivion is my favourite. So it had to be in this spot, and again, I don't know what else I can say about Oblivion that hasn't already been said. So moving on to the PlayStation 4, and surprisingly, this was also a very difficult decision for me. But ultimately, what I went for here is Batman Arkham Knight. Now, it didn't feel right to me to not have a Batman Arkham game on this list. The Batman Arkham series is one of my all-time favourites. I adore all of the games. Yes, even Origins, The Forgotten Child. And I didn't think it would be right to not have Batman Arkham Knight here on this slot. Again, there's a few PS4 games that I own that I absolutely love. But ultimately, Batman Arkham Knight is taking this slot. Again, very big franchise. Most people know of the Batman Arkham franchise. I'm not sure I can add too much to the conversation other than I absolutely love them. You've heard that quite a few times in this video. It's a favourites video. Of course I love them all. So now we get to my final game on this list, which is the PlayStation 5, the console that I am currently obsessed with. And again, this was a very difficult decision, and I don't think that this would make many people's lists, to be totally honest with you. And it was quite a close call for PlayStation 5 games as to which one I wanted to put here, but ultimately I've gone for Split Fiction. Now, I absolutely adored this game. I, of course, played this with my husband. I absolutely love Hazelight Studios and every single game they've put out. It Takes Two, A Way Out, Split Fiction, and technically not Hazelight, but Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. I love all of those games so much. I can't wait for the next Hazelight game already. But Split Fiction, I feel, was not spoken about as much as I feel like it should have been. It was completely snubbed at the Game Awards, which I feel like I took personal offence to. I think I made that quite clear. I don't understand. I don't understand why more praise wasn't put on this game, because I think to me, it's one of my favourite games of all time. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me feel all the feelings. I love both protagonists, Mia and Zoe. I love them both equally. I love the concept of the game. I love everything about it. The visuals, just the story, just everything. I just love everything about it. I really, really do. And if there is one defender of this game, it's me. And if there are no defenders of this game, then I'm deceased. I just love this game so much. And I don't understand why. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of hate about it. Don't get me wrong. People aren't hating on it as far as I can see. But it just seems to have come and gone, disappeared into the ether. And I don't understand why. I don't. So there you have it. That is my list of my favourite physical games for every console that I own. So thank you very much for watching. Now, I feel like it will be quite hard for you to do a list of every game you like on every console, but if you would like to do that, then please feel free to. But I'm going to make it a little bit easier and say, pick your top 3 favourite consoles of all time, and in the comments box below, let me know your 3 favourite games from those consoles. I think that would be a little bit easier than every console that's ever existed. But if you want to do that, then please feel free to. I would love to see your list. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, bye Embers.